You're welcome back. This is the Christmas Eve edition of News Desk. We are going straight into local government ministry. So just like other ministries and sectors, the local government ministry has had its ups and downs in 2014. Let's take it from the cholera outbreak this year, which is what pricked the presidency and the local government ministry to come up with a groundbreaking National Sanitation Day, which is gradually getting some patronage and backing from corporate Ghana. The street naming exercise initiated by the local government ministry also received some commendation from emergency service providers who believe the initiative will help them access crime scenes early enough and also attend to other emergencies swiftly. One incident that attracted headlines is the Chia DC, who gained popularity after displaying some regrettable acts in public. Today on News Desk, we will review activities in the local government sector in 2014. I will be joined online by Eric Odro-Osai, who is the Dean of Studies at the Local Government Studies, and George Cheba, for former President, National Association of Local Authorities, Ghana, NALAG. But before we start the discussion right here on News Desk, we will take a story on the street naming exercise now. Right. Street naming exercise about the Ghana Police and Fire Services say the street naming exercise being carried out by the various assemblies has come at an opportune time. That is earlier on in the year before the street naming took place. That is what the Ghana Police Service and National Service or National Fire Service spoke about. Well, they said as it will help them respond quickly to crime scenes and also help to reduce loss of lives and property during fire outbreak. The deadline for the exercise elapsed exactly a month ago, and some streets are yet to be named, but now they've all been named. But my colleague Joy News Latif Idrisu has been finding out how the exercise will influence the operations of the emergency services and the citizenry.
Vanderpoy Street, Komla Dumo Avenue, Ajiman Avenue, John Evans Atamil Street, and the list goes on. Those are the names of some streets in the capital, Accra. The hope is that Ghanaians will no longer use landmarks when given directions but street names. The street naming and house numbering exercise, aside aiding in accurate direction, will also help the various security agencies in their operations. The Ghana Police Service, for instance, says they are unable to quickly locate some crime scenes during robberies due to lack of proper naming system. And with crime becoming more sophisticated, Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of public affairs of the Ghana Police Service, DCOP Reverend David Nenyin Ampabenin, tells us how the exercise will help the police service in their operations.
Even in the courts, you want somebody to stand short. We have to locate his property. We have to, in relation to the street, the area. And you find it difficult. Sometimes even you don't need the person to take you there. We have to go there ourselves. How do you go? So unless you go with a criminal, and then you say this is it, this is it. So that even it can give you wrong address. But because it's not publicized, you don't know it. But now it's publicized. If you say number 22 Sekarnate Road, then we know that if he takes it to another road, which is not Sekarnate Road, then we know that the person wants to defraud us.
Public Relations Officer of the Ghana National Fire Service, Billy Anaglate, disclosed that the absence of street names means the fire service is unable to promptly attend to fire cases.
You know, I know you'll be surprised to hear that there are times somebody will call and said fire at Amamprobi. Then you want to find out if there is any street name, anything that we will be able to use, or any landmark. It becomes difficult because they do not have names of those ones. So I would say, as much as it is late, though, we are happy that it has taken off.
Chief Executive Officer of the National Ambulance Service, Professor Ahmed Nuhu Zakaria, also lauded the initiative.
Because traditionally we have not been used to using names of streets. Now that we are bringing it up, we should accompany that with a system that will compel everybody to really make good use of their names. Otherwise, very soon, everybody will not remember. And if you don't remember the name of your street that you live in, how then will you even use that information? And those are the issues I'm talking about.
We find out from the public whether or not they know the names of the streets they use.
When you're coming from Circle, just around Glens, house number C1-4, exactly, you are there.
When you get to the Glens nightclub, the first junction on the left, then you turn on it.
So you don't name of the street, actually, I don't know.
Yeah, for this particular street, I know it's called Kwame Nkrumah Avenue. The one goes down here is Vanderpoel Street.
Okay.
Not all, only my street and the main street on the Kojo Thompson Street. That's what
the name of this street behind us?
I don't know. If I will tell you, I don't know.
The next time you walk on the street, keep your head up and check out the street name because you just might need it. From the Vanderpoel Street in Adabraka, this has been Latif Idris's report for Joy News.
Right, so that was a story we did about a month ago, sometime in November. So to review that, I have been joined online by Eric Odro Osain. He is the Dean of Studies at the Institute of Local Government Studies. Hello, Eric. Thank you so much for joining us here on News Desk.
Thank you, my sister.
And Merry Christmas. Thank you. Thank you. Right. So we also do have online George Cheba, for former NALAC president. Merry Christmas to you, George.
Yeah, thank you very much. Same to you.
Right. Thank you. So let's explore.
Looking forward to a pretty good new year.
Right. We wish you well. We wish that for you.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's explore street naming. How crucial is it to national development? I'll take it from Eric.
All right, thank you, and then good morning and Merry Christmas to our viewers and listeners. I think that on the face of it, when it comes to street naming and then house numbering, it is a basic tool for national development. Because in terms of its crucialness, I would say that you started by mentioning the issues of national security, the issues of location, the issues of utility services, the issues of even census, the issues of revenue mobilization. Indeed, and when you go to other countries, street naming and house numbering is so critical that it is a criminal offense if you don't get your house numbered. That is why I would agree with Dr. Zakaria that after even naming streets and numbering houses, we should have a legislation to compel people to use it in all official transactions. Once we have that, it will put every village, every community, and every local government on the world map. That is how important is the street naming and house numbering, in my view.
Let me also take your view on that, George.
Yeah, thank you very much. Greetings to your numerous listeners. Let me wish each one of them a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Yes, I think that it's very important because it's the anchor of national development, just like all the others have said. Because the most important asset of a nation is the human resource. And every human being is located or should necessarily be located in a premise and then also in a clearly defined approachable residential area or reachable residential area. Apart from that, decentralization also anchors on Assembly's ability to mobilize the requisite funds to support the human resource in order to undertake the required development. And before any assembly is able to do that effectively and efficiently, the assembly should have the data. The database is very, very critical. And for that matter, if every house is numbered and for that matter captured on a database, if it is numbered, identified clearly, and then hooked onto a database, if each development activity, for that matter, is able to be located within street or along street and within defined parameters, it is going to serve as a catalyst for the assemblies to be able to identify ratepayers and be able to ensure that they reach out to them to enable them pay the requisite rate for the assembly's development. Apart from that, I think that, like Eric said, it boosts security issues in terms of, tracking down criminals and also identifying areas which are under stress. For instance, if there's a fire outbreak or if there's a disaster. So I think that it's very critical and it's one of the most significant issues when it comes to the macro development framework within the context of decentralization as far as the ministry is concerned.
Let me also find out, the president warned of sanctions if deadline not met. Some were not able to meet their deadline, and some were able to also do. What does that say?
Well,
because really no sanctions were taken.
Yes, I think that in principle, the president outlined the policy or the program and had to make the program time-bound. But I also clearly understood or observed that the necessary preparation, the necessary, logistics, the necessary resources that ought to have been put in the program to ensure absolute success was not present. Because, for instance, the president did not indicate clearly the source of funding of such an important national program. Because the assembly did not capture them in their budgetary proposals, which were approved for implementation, and the nation did not also capture it under any of its MMG or MGA budget at the national level. So when the first phase took off, there was a directive, or there had to be a directive to all assemblies to part with some of the district development funds and to some extent the district assembly common fund in order to pay for the initial cost of the program. The program also, the way it was handled, was not properly owned by the assembly. As I've said, and I continue to say, my assembly, for instance, was not privy to a discussion, and for that matter, a decision and the acknowledgement of the essence of the program, which ultimately would have been a program that is owned by the assembly itself. And for that matter, it became a program that hinged on a presidential directive, and I don't think that from that premise, it achieved what it ought to achieve. And for that matter, because the resources were not available or clearly defined in terms of funding, the program could not be exhaustively undertaken. That's the way I saw it.
Let me also come to you, George. Eric, what does that say also to you?
I think I want to agree with George. It looks as if the implementation of the process goes in phases. And what I know is that they will first have to do the street naming, and then the next stage would be the house numbering. The arrangement that was put in place under normal circumstances, one would have thought that it will be decentralized so that you have a national street naming committee, a regional street naming committee, and then a district street naming or house numbering committee to be able to prosecute the agenda to the end. But it looks as if we had a national street naming committee. I don't know whether there was a local level street naming committee. Again, the issue of resources. What I know is that most of the local governments were requested to review their budget, their composite budget, and make a provision or provide a budget line for that street naming project agenda. Most of them did it, but as you may be aware, most of the local governments are not able to mobilize enough to support this agenda. Aside that, the district development facility to which this particular project was tied, some of the local governments did not pass. So invariably, they will not get the money to fund the thing. But my position or my point here is that it is a new project. It is we are bound to face challenges. The lessons of this year should go to improve the process. And I want to believe that in 2015, when I saw some of the composite budgets of the local government, some of them have made provisions for the house numbering. In fact, those who are continuing will do the house numbering, and those who are not able to complete the street naming will continue with the street naming. Yes, it was a presidential directive, but you can be sure that there may be other factors beyond the controls of local government to be able to do it. But I'll conclude on the fact that this process would have to be owned by the local government. But when you see the design, there is a national architecture for which the local government design should fit into. That is the bit we need to cross. Because if you are decentralizing a process and you are doing street naming and you allow the local government to do it, they should own the process for sustainability and improvement. Until we are able to do that, we are likely to fail. But I'm sure where we are now, if we continue in 2015, we will make serious progress into the street naming and house numbering project.
Right, so if we continue to make progress into 2015, we sure would have all our streets and perhaps all our houses named. I would like us also move on to the one major issue that happened during the year for the Ministry of Local Government. That was the cholera outbreak this year, which claimed some 150 lives with over 10,000 cases recorded. That really pricked the presidency and the local government ministry to come up with a National Sanitation Day, and that brought into sharp focus the sanitation role of the MMDAs. Will you say they have failed in that regard?
No, let me take it first from there. I would not say they have failed. I would say that the quick response given to the cholera outbreak as a result of the impact, the negative impact it is happening on society, as against the institutionalization of the National Sanitation Day, to tell the whole world or should tell the whole of Ghana that when issues like that happens, we can quickly respond to it. I would want to agree with those who believe that the assemblies did not do what they were supposed to do. It is very true. Waste management and sanitation is a local matter. It should have been dealt with by the local government. But they also complain that they don't have the funds to do it. So yes, it was good it came up. But I will look at the response rate. We're able to respond to it as a nation. But after responding to it, what plans have we put in place to prevent it from recurring come next year? When we go into another year, the rains will be with us again. We need to put in place a sustainable process to prevent what happened this year from happening. The Ministry of Local Government did its bit. But I realized that there was no coordination at the national level, because the issue of sanitation and environment is between the Ministry of Local Government, the Ministry of Health, and the Ministry of Water Resources, Works and Housing. These three institutions are expected to collaborate effectively to ensure that issues of sanitation can be well managed. But it looks as if that coordination was missing. If it is done at the national level, it goes to the regional level, and then at the district level, the coordination becomes effective. Again, the establishment of waste management or a sanitation fund, which will operate as a true waste management fund, is critical, because this firefighting approach cannot continue. That is my take on that one.
Okay, let's come to you, George.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me make some concluding remarks on the street naming and house numbering. I think that the issue is to an extent politicized when it comes to the local level, especially with the selection of the name. And I have had cause to complain about the process of selection in terms of who is to be named after what street. It was done with some political color. The Assembly has the final authority by law to approve the naming of streets. That is a legislative function of the Assembly. And indeed, it's even a function of substructures under LI 1688 as amended. But this was not done. It was done at the behest of MMDCs who decided to do some politicking with it. So that is going to affect the quality of such an important exercise. And so government ought to look at it again. Coming to the National Sanitation Program, let me emphasize that it was one of the best interventions by the Ministry of Local Government for a pretty long time. Because the level and extent at which the environmental situation had degraded was so alarming. And if that intervention had not come, indeed, nobody could imagine where this country would be. It's one of the best interventions. Let me state that. But again, I think that it should be a stopgap intervention. I don't think that sanitation is an activity that ought to be driven by a whole ministry. I have very strong reservations about that, because that is a core function of MMDA. And the ministry could put up a macro framework at the level of the entire country, and then allow the decentralized institutions to also formulate macro programs and plans, which will dovetail into the national program, and then the implementation will be done at the local level. Because otherwise, we cannot have sanitation days first Saturday of every month in perpetuity. It's going to be more bonds, it's going to be kick, and fatigue is going to set in. So I think that, one, we need a national sanitation framework which assemblies will dovetail their programs in. Two, we ought to ensure that as a routine function of MMDA, resources released timelessly, because the District Assembly Common Fund, if you look at all the budgets of all the assemblies in this country, a chunk of it is allocated for sanitation management. But the monies are not timelessly released, because as I speak, only the first quarter for 2014 has been released in terms of the DACF. So definitely, the assemblies are going to be handicapped in terms of making resources available to deal with such, magnitude of sanitation challenges. Very, very critical. So we ought to look at that. And then also, I think that the nation ought to intensify sanitation education at the local government level. It's very important. That should be part of the national policy framework, and the assemblies will have to prepare to dovetail into that again, so that we will be able to educate the mass of our people on the need for effective sanitation management. We also have to, ensure compliance. There are sanctions regimes, and almost every assembly has a bylaw that deals with infractions on sanitation. We ought to ensure that this is also, enforced, to ensure that people really are made aware that when you infract on the sanitation laws, indeed you will be dealt with. That is also a very critical matter that ought to be looked at. If we don't release funds, if we don't ensure the enforcement of bylaws, if we don't ensure that indeed assemblies are activated and resourced enough and adequate for that matter to be able to deal with sanitation issues, I don't think we'll be able to go the full hog from the national perspective.
Let me also try to find out. So before the introduction of the national sanitation there, I want to believe the MMDCs also did have principles and policies, guidance, sanitation within their constituency. What became of that?
Well, let me remind all listeners that, you see, since 2007, if I would be, I want to be so dispassionate about the issue. Sanitation management has been made a national issue. It has been taken over from the local government authorities and centralized as a national program in Accra. Because the government, in a manner, coerced assemblies, coerced in quotes, to sign agreements to Zoom Lion. That is not even a bad idea, but the fact is that government went ahead to deduct money from the DACF and centralize those monies in Accra, pay them to Zoom Lion on behalf of assembly. And I have serious doubts as to why sanitation activity is taking place at the local level, and for that matter at the district level. And then the DACF is for district assemblies, but government decides that it should prepare a framework of an agreement and then go ahead to deduct as DACF, which is assembly's resources, centralize them in Accra, and behave as if it is financing the program from the center. And there are two programs involved: sanitation management and then fumigation, sanitation improvement, and then fumigation. And these are huge sums of money that are deducted from the District Assembly Common Fund. This year in 2014, for instance, the first quarter of an assembly, deductions of 90,000 Ghana cedis were effected. That's about 900 million old Ghana cedis from one assembly. So granting that 500 million on the average is deducted from each assembly's common fund. To multiply that by 216. And the fact is that these monies are not promptly released to Zoom Lion to undertake the sanitation program. So how do we contact sanitation management to Zoom Lion and then expect assemblies to also, mobilize some more resources to be able to undertake the exercise of sanitation on its own? So that is the bane of the issue. The problem is coming from the way central government is behaving when it comes to sanitation management in terms of resources.
Okay.
And this is a problem.
I see. Eric, do you agree with George?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with him. I think the whole system or process of financing sanitation and waste management will have to be reviewed. And then the local government will have to be brought into the picture. They will have to be properly resourced. I am of the view that centralization of the funding of sanitation is not the best for a decentralized system as we are operating in Ghana. I perfectly agree with him, and that is why I started by saying that we need a sanitation fund in this country to be able to properly decentralize to all local governments. Sanitation is a function of local government, but the resources are just not there. In situations where the resources are there, it is not released to them on a timely basis to be able to undertake that particular task. So if we have a national sanitation fund, which is disbursed independent of other funds, purposely to fund sanitation, and then ensure that sanitation is given a priority in the development programs of all local governments, I'm sure we'll be able to make a headway as a nation.